You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Wheel. Today, we are doing a driver's edition. So this will be driver's edition for July of 2026. Today, we're just stepping back from the interviews and we're going to dive into what's happening across the RV industry. These may not be the biggest headlines, but we're talking about why the headlines that we chose today matter. And I think what you're going to hear is that most of this is good news for the industry as well as for the shoppers as well. So if you are shopping for an RV, I think now's a good time. But you'll also hear why the industry is maybe reinvesting in itself at this moment with the slowing down of sales. So let's get this episode started. Hey, Sean, how's it going today?
Hey, Kenny. It's going good. I'm looking forward to this episode, and I'm really excited about some of the previous interviews we've had and some upcoming episodes as well that maybe we'll touch on at the end.
Just getting into the headlines. So the retail side of RV sales is continuing to decline. That doesn't mean that we want anybody to feel bad for the RV industry right now. Not everything can stay up forever. And Sean and I have been coming on here for the last few drivers editions and telling you, this was coming. This is something that we were tracking, that we knew the sales were going to drop, even though for a little while, Sean, the sales were slowing down, but the shipments were continuing to go strong, I guess you could say. But now I think everything is kind of catching up with each other. We got some survey statistical information here from April 2026. They were down from this time last year by 16.87%. And that follows an earlier decline from February, which was down 24%, and March 21%. So what's that? That's now a 3-month ongoing trend of decline.
Yeah, it's still, I think the manufacturers expect over 300,000 shipments this year. So it's not like it's falling too much. It's definitely down, but still 300,000 is a lot. And I think some of that can be attributed to, like we've discussed before, higher interest rates. Now it's a lot of high fuel prices. I know diesel is ridiculous right now. Inflation, although inflation just dropped, I think last month a little bit, but with this war going on, maybe it's going to creep back up. And then, of course, the consumer confidence numbers aren't as high as they were in the past. And then also, one thing I found was that dealers, although it doesn't seem like it, but dealers are maintaining lean inventories rather than stocking aggressively.
Interesting. Even with all those shipments still going out, the 300,000, they're able to keep the lean. To me, Sean, when I'm picturing this in my head with the bubbles and everything going on, 300,000 shipments, that's a lot. Sales are slow, so you would think there would start to become some type of backlog where they're having units just sit on the lots. But
Yeah, and I think an article in the Wall Street Journal said that Winnebago recently reduced its financial outlook, citing soft towable demand and cautious dealer ordering, reflecting that dealers are keeping their inventories a little leaner.
geez, I'm afraid that I'm going to get somebody in trouble. But if I don't mention any names, I think I'm safe, Sean. I really don't know. But I talk to a lot of dealers, and the dealers are definitely letting me know that they are letting units go for much, much less than they ever would have in the past few years anyway, to the point that sometimes they are moving inventory at a loss just to get it off their lot, just because that's how upset they are to see it sitting on their lot for a month, 2 months, 3 months at a time. The boss will come down and say, just let this go at any price. I don't care.
What's interesting, Kenny, is I did some research on the used RV market, and used RV sales increased about 1.6% year over year as of February of 2026. I guess the numbers for used RV sales are they lag a little bit compared to the new. but some of the categories, like Class Bs and Class As in the used part actually outperform the overall market for RV sales.
Not only just in their category, but overall. That's pretty
Overall, yeah.
yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
That is because I know Class A new sales for Class A's right now, diesel and gas, are both way, way down. So it's surprising, though, that a used one can outperform, let's say, a Class C or something like that. That's pretty cool. That's good news.
Yeah, and what they're saying is that in the used market, more people are looking at used because the monthly payments are a lot lower.
So I wonder then if you are in the market for a new RV and you currently own an RV, does that mean that your trade in value is better today than it was, say, a year ago? I wonder
Yeah.
because you're trading in a used model that might potentially be faster and easier to sell than a new model. So it might look attractive to a dealer. I'm not sure if that's really the way they look at things. Typically they're just looking at numbers, I feel like. But I wonder if now's a good time to do a trade in. And then, of course, all this means, what Sean did mention the high interest rates. So now's a good time to buy, I would say, if you are financially ready, where you're not going to need to take out that big loan and get hit by the interest rate. You should be able to get, like I said, you should be able to get a pretty good price on a new vehicle right now.
Now, I did find that the types of RVs that are in strong demand and maybe you won't get as good pricing on or as competitive are, of course, travel trailers, even though they're down overall, but they're still, low entry anyway. So I would imagine you can't reduce the price of those very much and still make a profit. Lightweight trailers, especially Class B camper vans, which we know vans still pretty expensive, and then entry level fifth wheels. But the weaker demand ones are large luxury fifth wheels, high end diesel pushers, toy haulers, and towables above or around 100,000. There's
Okay.
a weaker demand for those.
At one time, Sean, I used to see toy haulers all the time. And now I rarely see them. At one time, I saw them at every RV park. I saw them going down the road all the time. Wonder how those trends changed to the fact that now I don't see them as often. Like what what took its place? What if you have toys that you want to bring, were people not actually carrying toys with them? Maybe they were just using it as garage space, but not actually putting stuff in it. And people were like, oh, I guess we don't really need this big garage if we're not going to carry a side by side.
Yeah, or maybe a lot of them have like our Cyclone was a toy hauler and it had when you weren't hauling toys, it had like 2 drop down queen size beds. It could be extra room if you have like more people.
Yeah. I'm gonna take a trip this weekend, so I'm gonna keep an eye out and I'll be at a campground. I'm gonna see how many toy haulers I see out on the road because I know I don't see as many as I used to. You know what? To be honest, I think I see more smaller Class Cs now than I used to. I see less Class As, more Class Cs, and the small traditionals. And then, of course, I see a ton of these vehicles that look like View Navion, Echo, and the little Grand Design ones that are more of a modern small Class C, 24, 25 feet. I'm going to keep an eye out this weekend. I'm really curious to see what I see on the road. Will I see more vans this weekend? I bet you I see that decline in those toy haulers still. John, maybe that's a fuel thing. Maybe, to tow a fifth wheel, you're going to be using a little bit more fuel than, say, a bumper pool or maybe even motorized now. You had mentioned, I'm going to put you on the spot, Sean. You had mentioned a entry level fifth wheel. And I am trying to think what who makes an entry level fifth wheel? Because I feel like fifth wheels to me, I've never been in a fifth wheel, and I was like, and thought it was. I'm not gonna say use the word crappy. I always feel like fifth wheels are super nice. They always have like a home like feel to them. I cannot think of a entry level fifth wheel, but I'm really not in the towable space as much as a motorized space. And I wonder, I don't expect you to know all this. What does a entry level fifth wheel cost?
I think you can get some of the entry-level fifth wheels for like 40 or 50,000.
That is good
Not
price.
terribly expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most
And
manufacturers that make fifth wheels have an entry-level version.
okay. Yeah, that's not a bad price at all. For all that space that you get with the fifth wheel, you get more cargo capacity in a fifth wheel too than a bumper pull.
Yeah,
Interesting.
for sure.
But
Yeah.
but you need the truck to be able to tow. Even an entry level fifth wheel would still have some weight to it, and you're towing it completely different, manner that you have the hitch in your bed type of thing. So you still
Yeah,
need
which those hitches aren't cheap, so you need to consider that. I mean,
y-
to buy one and have one installed
right,
professionally is expensive.
and it's 100% you need a truck. You can't tow it with a big SUV or
Right.
an excursion suburban. Like it has to be a truck. So you might be purchasing a different vehicle to go along with.
And
Okay.
ideally, it's a long bed truck, so you don't have to have one of those
Mm.
sliding hitches. So it doesn't, if you have a short bed, you have to have a special hitch so it doesn't hit.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that, but you're right, John. I never see those fifth wheels being towed by like a 6-foot bed even. Usually I feel like there are always 8-foot beds in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Yeah, yeah. So now you're talking a big truck. Crew cab
Yeah.
plus 8-foot bed. Well, that's what you got, right? Crew
Yep.
cab, 8-foot bed in yours, right? Yeah.
Yep.
That is a big truck. You got a monster truck. I always call your truck a monster truck. We were actually just talking about your truck too and how it takes, what did we figure out? 3 gallons of oil for
Yeah.
an
A
oil
lot of oil.
change.
Yeah.
You're talking about oil, being changed in gallons and not quarts. I think this is still, and as we progress through this episode, you're gonna hear, this sounds bad, sales being down, but used market is doing well. Dealers lots are keeping a lean lot, even though 300,000 vehicles are coming in. You're gonna hear, though, we got some good news coming up later on. It's kinda funny. With that all being said, the industry certainly isn't acting like things are slowing down. In fact, things in the industry side of things, like behind the scenes, almost feels like it's picking up. One of those things would be the merger between Patrick Industries and Lippert agree to merge. Now, this merger, I want to let everybody know because I've heard a lot of people say like this merger is done deal, and it's not a done deal. They are agreeing to merge. The merge has not happened yet. There is still some work to be done. I believe if they really wanted to, they could stop the merger. So it's not like a done deal, but it is working towards that. And I believe by the end of the year, it will be a done deal, but it isn't yet. And for those that may not know, Lippert and Patrick are pretty much the biggest RVs supplier of components that go into your RV. So you might not be really familiar with Patrick or Lippert because they don't build the RV itself. They're the suppliers. They're the OEM suppliers of components. Think air conditioners, water pumps, your furniture, your cabinets, your water tanks, all those parts and components that go into the RV. And this is just how much of a giant they are. The merger proposes that they'll create a a 8 billion with a B, 8 billion combined annual revenue. I mean, this is a huge, huge merger.
Yeah. It's pretty huge. And I mean, that would definitely be, they would dominate the RV industry and they could pretty much control what we see as consumers
And that's
as
that's
far
my
as RVs go. Yeah.
yeah, and that's actually a fear of mine, Sean. This company and Lippert, Patrick combining like this, I think not only will they be able to control like the pricing, I feel like at that point they're so big that they can even bully the manufacturers a little bit. They're bigger than the manufacturers by far, bigger than the
Yeah.
manufacturers. So when you say, controlling the pricing, like they will really have a really pretty strong hold on the manufacturers, even like a big company like Thor and stuff like that, they will have probably a more difficult time negotiating and saying, "Well, we buy so much from you guys, you should cut us a deal." And they now Patrick Lipper will be able to say, "Well, if you don't buy from us, who are you going to buy from?" Like you don't really have much other options to go out and buy from somebody else, so you don't have to buy from us.
Kenny, I think we were talking yesterday about that. a National Lampoon's Vacation scene where they're in Chicago and he's looking
Yeah.
for something. I don't even remember what Chevy Chase is looking for, but the guy says he says, "Well, how much is it gonna be?" And the guy says, "Well, how much do you got?"
Yep.
I
My
think it could
favorite.
be one of those situations.
It's absolutely my favorite scene in that movie. Now and I'm asking you how much you got. But that's 100% is what this is going to turn into. So I really don't necessarily see this at the moment as a plus for us, the consumer. Of course, that's not how it's being spun. And, Patrick and Lippert are saying, the merger will improve efficiency, expand innovation, reduce costs through, making everything a little bit more synergy. And they, I don't know if that any of that is true, Sean. Like typically companies, big companies too, if they're saving a little bit of cost, that's typically not trickled down to a consumer level. I just don't see us saving any money by these two companies being merged together. I would be very happy to be wrong about that, but we shall see. So that's supposed to happen during the first half of 2027, as long as everything goes on track. So they're still working towards it. As that progresses, we'll come back and let you guys know what is going on with that merger, how close are they to actually making that happen, and how it's affecting the industry on a consumer level as far as we're concerned, but also how is it affecting the manufacturers.
And I think if there are any companies that haven't been bought by either Lippert or Patrick yet, because they both seem to buy a lot of companies, there could be an opportunity here for them to maybe make their mark with some of the manufacturers and, figure out a way to insert themselves into the manufacturers in spite of this deal.
Sean, I'm trying to think of some manufacturers right now in the appliance world that isn't owned by them, and I'm having a hard time thinking of one. Furion is Lippert, I believe. Yeah, yeah. Coleman, is that RXL? And RXL is owned by oof, let us know in the comments. Who owns RXL? They might be Thor. I think Thor owns RXL. They might be not part of that, merger. And maybe that's something that helps Thor, that if Thor, but I'm almost sure that Thor owns RXL. So maybe that helps Thor with their pricing to be able to say, well, we're not going to buy your Furion ACs. We're going to just continue to put our Coleman RXL AC units in our coaches then, if that's the case. And maybe they're not going to be as bullied as I first thought. But
I do
God,
have to say that we have Furion appliances in our RV now, and they're the best RV appliances I've ever used. So definitely not saying anything about the brands that fall under these companies, but it's just, you know, monopolies are not a good thing.
yeah, I hear nothing but good things about the Furion brand. They have is it Furion that builds that Chill Cube? That's an amazing AC unit. Yeah. So yeah, like Sean said, we're not knocking Furion or any of the appliances. I just don't see this merger being a good thing for us in general. I'm not saying that I don't expect any downgrade in quality or anything like that coming out of this merger. I'm just not expecting things to get cheaper from the merger either. But, if you're listening right now, we'd love to hear from you. How do you feel about this merger? Do you feel as if this is exciting news for you, or does it make you nervous that maybe pricing will go up? To be honest, I don't know if it will affect us as a consumer level positively or negatively. I really think this is more on the industry and the manufacturer level. I don't think we will get things to be more expensive on our end. I think this would be a case where we are talking about millions and millions of transactions of components being priced out. It may hurt the bottom line of the manufacturer a little bit, but I don't think it'll be enough that we feel it as well. But I could be very wrong about that. I'm hoping not. So,
I think we'd feel it.
yeah, I'm afraid that that's going to be the case. I'm just hoping that it doesn't both ways. Like, I don't think it would trickle down to the fact that we would save money, but I'm hoping it doesn't trickle down to the point that it costs us more money. Like I said, we will keep you guys up to date on what we are seeing in the market as that continues to progress. Moving on to Airstream. Airstream just did their dealer meeting, and they are showing very big confidence in the industry, even though with the soft market. And rather than pulling back, Airstream is reinforcing its commitment to their dealers, product development, and long term growth. Even with the slower sales, the company appears focused on strengthening their premium position. They're putting money into employee training, product development, their manufacturing facilities. They're expanding some of their production facilities that they have out at Jackson Center, Ohio. And they're also putting money into ensuring better quality control. So they're using this time, because I would imagine, Sean, with sales being down, production probably slows down. And this is probably a great opportunity for them to kind of jump in and be like, all right, where can we, we have time. Things aren't rushed and moving as fast. How can we improve this? How can we maybe improve efficiency? Let's get some more dealer training out there. Let's focus more on our quality control. Let's expand our facilities while we have time to do the construction on a property. So I think this is a good sign that Airstream must feel that things are turning down for a moment, but they're going to come back up again. They're investing in the future of RVing, and I think that's a great sign.
Do you consider Airstream a luxury brand, Kenny?
At their price, I do, sure. Yeah, I would say so. The all aluminum body, is very, very unique than anything else anybody builds out there. More so than even the fiberglass shells that some of these campers are. The cabinetry inside. Yeah, I consider Airstream a luxury model. I mean, they even, what is it called? The Cloud. I feel like that's a very luxury style naming, but yeah, I mean, they have a long, long history of quality. They obviously have a long history in general. I mean, always seeing Airstreams out on the road. They hold their resale incredibly well. Like people, I think Airstream relates to like quality in people's minds. Yeah, I would consider them a luxury model, because you are spending more for something that one, I'd hate to say that you're spending money for the name itself, but I do feel like that makes it a luxury. Like when somebody says, "Oh, what do you own?" and you can say, "Well, I own an Airstream." I think it's almost like saying, "Well, I own a BMW, I own a Mercedes." I feel like it holds that same type of weight, even if they weren't built a little better. I'm not saying they are or they aren't. I think there's just something to say, "Oh, well, I own an Airstream," the same way that you would say, "I own a BMW."
Yeah, I definitely think that they do last longer.
Hmm.
You see lots of old Airstreams on the road. So I think they are longer lasting, and probably because of that, they hold their value maybe a little better. So maybe that does make them a luxury brand as well.
Yeah, and they're very comfortable inside. They usually have great lighting, great cabinetry, a nice flowing floor plan where it feels very relaxed when you walk into an Airstream. It doesn't feel like things are coming down on top of you. You don't feel like you're in a small space, even though you are. Even though none of them have, well, some of them have slides, but even though most of them, the majority of them, don't have slides, it has a very typically open feel. A lot of glass, a lot of windows. I think they put some money into those units, and I think it does show. And part of that holding their value too. Like I think it's hard to tell for me anyway, because I don't own one and I don't know a ton about Airstreams. Like I couldn't personally look at a 1980s Airstream next to a 2010 and probably tell you which is which. They kind of have that iconic look to them. They don't really change too much. I might be able to notice if the awning or something like that, components that are on the outside of it, but the actual shell and body of the vehicle, I bet you I would have a very difficult time picking out a 1980 to a 2000.
Yeah, I always have to ask.
Yeah, even at 20 years apart from each other, I'd still be like, I don't know. If somebody had a really nice 1980s that they took care of, and somebody bought a 2000 and they weren't taking very good care of it, it might be difficult to tell which is which.
Yeah, so I guess with it being a luxury brand, then their sales probably may not be affected as much because normally people that can afford those luxury brands aren't worried about interest rates. Most of them are paying for the vehicle up front.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And Sean, also, I don't feel as if because of the pricing of an Airstream, they are not like a high volume type of travel trailer. You get a entry level travel trailer that sometimes what I mean, we're at the Hershey show and sometimes we'll see them marked at like $17,000, brand new, maybe even less than that. I think we've even seen numbers even closer to the 10,000 mark. Whereas an Airstream, I think the cheapest Airstream is probably going to come at a show. It's going to be 40 grand. I think that's it's bottom line at a show price. And I might be a little off from that. It might be even a little more than that for bottom line pricing on an Airstream. You're not don't have the volume. They're not selling Airstreams as quickly as a I'm not trying to make fun of any companies out there, but they're not selling as many as say Coleman is, the Coleman travel trailer that can just pump these things out for like a few grand and sell them for a few more grand.
Yeah, this next story, Kenny, I can see why. I mean, even though RV sales have slowed, I can see why KOA was recognized as one of the top 50 most profitable franchises because pretty much if you go to a KOA, you know exactly what you're going to get. Like
Yeah.
they have made that franchise so standardized that if it's a KOA holiday or a KOA journey, you know basically what you're getting when you book that site. And they've made it so easy to book the site that I think that's a big factor in why it's profitable as well. So I think I've always been impressed with those aspects of KOA. So I think they deserve to be one of the top 50 most profitable franchises.
They are from head to toe just a top-notch organization, I feel like. From the cleanliness of the bathrooms, the property, the landscaping on the properties, the staff, the training that they do, the amenities that they offer. I feel like they just put 100% into everything that they do. The app to book a stay. They are just so well covered from head to toe with everything that they do. I think is what makes them really just stand apart from other campgrounds. I've talked to KOA owners. They not only go through training, but they do meetups. So like per region, they will all the owners, say in Virginia, all the owners from Virginia will meet at one of the KOAs once a year and it rotates from location to location and they learn from each other of what's working and what's not working at their particular campgrounds. I think it comes down obviously from the corporate level, but the corporate level does such a great job with their training that their staff, they are the friendliest people when you go in and you talk with them. They just know what they're doing. They know how to make the consumer happy and they do it very, very well. I was happy to see that they are on the top 50 of most profitable franchises, and that's not just for RV, that's like across the board, top 50 most profitable franchises, and I congratulate them because I am a huge KOA fan.
Yeah, us too.
Yeah, just like I like staying at their campgrounds. We always know that we're going to have a good experience. We've never had a bad experience. There are better KOAs than other KOAs, but we've never been to a bad KOA. Like there's either good KOAs and then there's great KOAs and there's fantastic, but there's no bad ones.
And the same, I know a lot of people that listen to this podcast probably don't use the cabins that they have at KOAs, but we've had friends and family like come on vacation with us and they'll rent a cabin at one of the KOAs where we're staying in our RV and the cabins are great too.
Yeah. We Sabrina has stayed in the cabins every once in a while because she works night shift. So there were times that she didn't want to come back and try to sleep in the RV while I was awake. She said I made too much noise breathing. So she would get a cabin. She always enjoyed being in the cabins. And it's same thing. They have like all different levels of cabins. You can have deluxe or, very basic. And I think that's something else that KOA does very well is even at the RV sites, you have a 30 amp backup all the way to a 50 amp pull through. You can have a picnic table, or you could have like the works. You could have chairs and a picnic table and a fire pit and a grill and a fence we've been at some KOAs that even have like a little dog yard right at your site. Like they offer a lot of different levels, even all within a single location. So they just do it right. I don't know how else to explain it, but they just do it right. We're going to a KOA soon, and it's got ATV rentals and it's got go kart rentals. They're going to have a cafe on property. They're just true resorts. So, I say this a lot that the word resort gets thrown around a lot in the RV camping space, but most KOAs really are true resorts. I think this shows also that that's how well the industry is doing, because this top 50 for franchises is everything, all franchises. And yet there's a a campground has made this top 50. So that's a good sign, I think, for the industry that there's even a camping anything on that top 50s list. So I think that's really good. And it just shows that, people are still interested in this outdoor experience. Maybe like you said, Sean, maybe they don't own an RV, but they like the cabins. They also they also ran out like the little not wheelbarrow. That's not the right, covered wagons. So it's like an experience. So it's different. Is KOA glamping? Most likely, right? Would KOA camping be considered glamping? They got a lot of amenities on property. I would imagine even like a journey for most would probably still be glamping, because you got
Definitely their
pool
resorts are.
yeah, the resorts for sure. I would even the holidays probably. I might even say the journey is too, because you usually have a pool, laundry. I think most people, any overlander would consider that glamping. So I guess it depends on who you talk to. But yeah, I think overall that's really good news. Well done, KOA. And this next topic, again, just shows the industry and these companies putting money back into their product. And it's about Blue Compass. They're continuing to expand. John looked this up right before we got on here and said that Blue Compass now has 100 locations,
Over
uh,
100.
over 100 locations, which made me wonder, man, I don't think Blue Compass is that old. So I then looked up, and it was created in 2018. So you're only talking 8 years, and this company, this Blue Compass, is already over 100 locations.
In
Uh,
31 different states.
yeah. So to put that in comparison, Camping World is in 44 states. So they're definitely catching up to Camping World as far as what states they're in. And Camping World is around 200 locations, a little over 200 locations. So they are more than halfway caught up to Camping World in just an 8-year period. I don't have any experience with Blue Compass at all. I don't know if I've ever even been to one for a service or for a sale of anything at all. Camping World, I have been. I'm not sure if I really like the fact that Camping World has over 200. These guys now have over 100. At some point, we will probably only have these two choices for shopping. We've already lost Lazy Days, right? Lazy Days is completely gone, and they were a big RV dealership with multiple locations. So I fear that at some point we will only have two choices for our shopping experience. For the most part, I mean, we're always going to have the more ma and pa locations, but they will be. They are not that they will be. They are going away as these two companies continue to buy them all up. I always like options. I always like choices, and I'm not saying anything bad about Blue Compass. Like I said, I've never even been to a Blue Compass, so I don't know how they have. I honestly never hear anything bad about them. So I mean, that's usually a good sign. So they must have a decent reputation. Camping World, you hear good and bad with Camping World. I've had great Camping World experiences. I've had bad Camping World experiences. I think when you get to a size that they are, that's just, I guess, the nature of the beast. But I'll go back to KOA. KOA is pretty huge, and I don't have any bad experiences with them. You can grow to scale, size, and still offer a great experience for everybody.
Yeah, I just read in RV News today that Blue Compass is opening or opened a new dealership in Oregon and in Utah. So they're continuing to expand. It's not like they seem to be slowing down at all. But I've never been to a Blue Compass either. I know there's one close to me. I may just go there and check it out. But I'm thinking, like, when it comes to in the article or in the discussion earlier about dealerships maintaining a leaner amount of RVs on their lots, maybe these bigger dealerships like Blue Compass and Camping World can see, like, if you're looking for a specific floor plan, maybe they can say, oh, well, we have it at this location. And so you can either arrange to get it or go to that location to check it out or what, and maybe make it easier shopping. I don't know about pricing though.
I think you're right about that, Sean. Like you just said, the bigger network that they have, one of their locations is probably going to have the exact model, everything that you are looking for. Whereas a mom and pa, they're just going to have what they have. They don't have another location anywhere where they could pull that inventory from and bring it over or send you down the street to their other location type of thing. Yeah, that's a good point. So shopping experience wise, a Blue Compass or a Camping World should be able to excel in that, gets you exactly what you're looking for. Whereas the mom and pop would have to order it. Typically, when you do order an RV, you're not going to get that great of a price, right? It's always cheaper to buy what's on the lot compared to placing a custom. I'm not putting it's not custom, but an order in. So maybe pricing that way, maybe they can beat the little shop. If they have it on the lot, they're going to sell it to you at a better price than the mom and pop shop would because they got to order it now and they're not moving the inventory on their spot. So that's what all the dealerships want to do. They want to move the inventory that they have. They don't really typically want to order more inventory. That's usually why they charge so much too, is I think you have to typically put down a pretty large down payment when you place an order. And sometimes it's non-refundable because they don't want you walking away from the deal. And now they have another vehicle on their lot that they got to sell. They really don't want vehicles on their lot sitting for too long.
Yeah, and I also don't know how it works with these. I've never purchased an RV at like a Camping World or a Blue Compass where it's a large dealership network, but I wonder if it makes warranty work a little easier too. Like you can go
Hmm.
to any of their locations, or if you have to go, if it's better to go to the location you purchased it from. I'm wondering if that works better if there's an expanded network.
You would think that would make things smoother, but I wonder if that's actually true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I know people like to put the blame and say, oh, well, you didn't buy it from here. You got to go back to the dealer you bought it from. And your argument would be, well, it was just another Blue Compass. And
Yeah.
they would say, yeah, but that's a different Blue Compass. I wonder. Yeah, I don't know. We don't know. We're not talking bad about Blue Compass. I'm just wondering if it does work that way. In theory, it should make things very smooth for that type of work. You're
Yeah.
traveling across the country, you have a problem, you go into a Blue Compass in Virginia, but you bought yours in Texas. They should take care of you just as if you bought it from that location. I feel like that's how it should go. I wonder.
Or even if you had work done, let's say you took your Class A in there for repairs and they repaired it and you got right back on the road. And then 2 days later, you're having an issue with what they fixed. Could you go to a different Blue Compass or Camping World and say, hey, I just had this work done here. Here's my paperwork. Can you guys fix it or do I have to go back to that one?
Yeah, that's a great point. And somebody with over 100 locations now, somebody listening has to have had a Blue Compass experience. Please let us know what we're talking about here. Have you experienced that same scenario? Purchased it from one, went to somebody else that was still in the Blue Compass network, and did it go smoothly? Or just tell us about your buying experience with Blue Compass, because, like I said, Sean and I both have zero experience with the company. We'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure our listeners would want to hear about this as well. So if you write us, we will discuss your story. We can blot out your names. You don't have to tell us your names, and we'll just discuss your story on air in the next Drivers Edition.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our episode, Kenny. I think the bottom line now is that we're getting back to the pre COVID RV status quo, I guess, compared to the madness that we saw during COVID and right after. I think we're just finally starting to pull back to what it was pre COVID.
Yeah. And, we got the Hershey show coming up in September. That's going to be a pretty good indicator. That's the biggest. Well, Tampa says they're the biggest too, but Hershey is one of the biggest RV shows in the country to the point that, that show really not only draws a crowd, but it is a selling show. And if the sales are down at that show, that'll be a pretty good indicator of what's going on with the market. There are people that literally just wait for that show to make a purchase rather than going to a dealership because they know show pricing, they're going to get a pretty good deal on a RV. So that is going to be a great indicator. That's like September, mid-September, that show's going to be around. Will we have another driver's edition before that, Sean? You're better with math than I am.
Yes, we should.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I was hoping that our next one would be right after the show and we could discuss it, but I'll bring that topic up again. Remind me.
So we want to hear from you. Would you buy an RV today, or would you still wait maybe another year? And are you considering used versus new because of the reasons we talked about earlier? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments or send us an email or just reach out on social media and let us know. We want to thank everybody for listening. And until our next episode, safe travels, everybody.